Yes guys, welcome down to the channel. My name is Andy Carter and today I'm going to be talking you through the difference between a chip and a pitch with your wedges. For me, the difference can be explained with the body movements, okay? So a chip shot, we generally try and keep this nice little triangle between the shoulders and the hands, and I'll just rock the shoulders and the hips back through the shot. You'll notice that my hands are not really getting past my waist, and also there's very minimal, if any, wrist movement through the shot. So that ball, over the course of a distance, may go 10 to 20 yards. And I can use that with any club. I can use a chip shot, like a chip and run, with your 8-iron or your or even up to lob wedge. But what you're going to be trying to see is that the lower body is going to be quite active still through the shot, but my hands are still going to be very, very rigid through the shot. Now it's very important to know that although a chip shot is generally quite short, you can see that my movements are big enough, okay? So I'm not kind of just chip. A lot of golfers just think of a chip as like a quick wrist movement, not much distance. So because there's not much distance, I don't really need to hit the ball very hard. I don't need to move very much. It's going to be a very simple little shot. Just a little chip. I hear that a lot. It's just a little chip. It's not just a little chip, it's full body rotation. A lot of skill and effort goes into making sure this triangle between your shoulders and your hands keep the wrist under control and the hips and the shoulders kind of work together. So still allowing this hand to get outside of your body through rotation. So it's not just through the arms, it's very much through the rotation of the body, keeping the wrists nice and solid throughout the whole shot. Like so. Okay, you'll even notice I'm a follow through position. I've got my weight still on my left side, I've got my hips turned, I've got my shoulders turned, my right heel, my trail heel's up as well. But most importantly, I've got a bit of a gap there between my hands and my body. I've not just kind of come through and just flicked through. I'm still gonna have that rotation, that momentum through the shot to make sure I get the strike, and that is absolutely vital. So your chip shot can be, I'd say, 20 yards and in. Some golfers are different. If your tempo is faster, then this is going to go further, isn't it? Okay, so you might use a chip for further away. Some golfers that don't hit the ball very far, they might go a lot shorter and a lot slower, and their chip shot might only be 10 yards. So when they get to 20 yards, it'll be a bigger swing, which we'd then class as a pitch. I do also think it's quite a personable thing. I often stand there from 50, 60 yards ago, I'm just going to chip this in. Now I know the mechanics of the movement are definitely not a chip, they are a pitch, but in my subconscious, I've got to tell myself it's a chip to be a little bit slower with my tempo and a little bit more control with my tempo. So there is a case for arguing it's going to be a little bit personal to you. So I'm just doing this from a purely generic position where I would say, while the hands are not really moving, but the body is, this is your chip shot, okay? Not really, as a general rule of thumb, not really allowing the hands to get up and past the hips by too much. And certainly the club head's not making its way up and past the hips either. But when we get onto a pitch shot right now, you'll see the difference. And that major difference now, as I move 50 yards away from the green, is the movement of my body, making it all a little bit bigger, making the length of the swing a little bit longer, and making sure I get a little bit more in my wrist action. So if I'm around about 40 yards from the green now, I've got the same club, whereas my chip shot was here. This is not going to cut it, I'm afraid. This is not going to reach. So I need to make sure that I've got a little bit more of a swing. I'm going to use my arms are going to go past my waist height. The club head's going to have a little bit of hinge in there, allowing the club head itself to be higher in relation to the ball. And when it's higher in relation to the ball, it means I can hit down on the ball. So this type of shot now, I'm actively trying to create a bit more height and a bit more spin and a bit more stop. But most importantly, I'm hitting the ball further. So the arms are working further back in the swing. Club head's working higher up. Ball's popped up a lot higher. It's gone a lot further, 30, 40 yards in distance. Oh well, 40, 50 yards in distance. and that's because of the length of my golf swing. You'll notice my hips are now turning a little bit more, and I'm getting in more now into more of a pronounced follow-through position as well. So as I start to rotate through the shot, weights forward onto my left-hand side, bit more movement into my right foot as well as I start to rotate. But the big and the quite obvious thing now is that they've got a lot more shoulder turn and a lot more wrist hinge through the shot, and more of a kind of a higher finish position as well. So it's quite an obvious key change between them, but I think it's very important how you kind of decide between it yourself. Like I say, for me personally, I am telling myself that this is a chip, so I don't start hitting it too hard. I'm not a great chipper or pitcher of the ball in terms of understanding my distance control, never have been. Probably should work a bit harder on it. So I kind of have to sell it to myself in a different way. I go, oh, this is just a little 40-yard chip shot, this. Yeah, because it makes me slow my tempo down. It's not a chip shot, it's a pitch shot. So you can be in a position where you can, it's how you perceive the shot to be, which I think is very important. Today's video has been all about the generic difference between a chip and a pitch. How you sell it to yourself is going to be slightly different as well. So drop a comment below, what sort of distance do you feel like that you start to pitch from, and what sort of distance do you chip from? What do you chip with and what do you pitch with? I've used a 54° for both chip and pitch from 20 and 40 yards. What clubs do you use? Do you like to chip a bit more with a chip and run shot like a wedge or an 8-iron? Or do you prefer to go more of the lob wedge shot? Because again, if you are 20-30 yards from the green with a lob wedge, the distance is going to be shorter, isn't it? So therefore you are going to need to start to swing a little bit longer, which now you could potentially start to class as a pitch shot rather than a chip shot, although you're 20 yards away from the green. Whereas if you've got a chip shot with an 8-iron, it's your chip and run shot. So we can label all these clubs as much as you want. At the end of the day, we've still got to hit the golf shot. We've still got to swing the club in a length of swing that suits that particular shot. So my actual overall advice is don't get too hung up on what is a chip and what is a pitch. It's important to know it might be important to know the difference in terms of the technical standpoint, but at the end of the day, you've still got to choose the right club, and you've got to get that club with the right swing to that target. And that is the most important thing about golf, as I'm sure you already know that. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this tip. Jump in the comments below. Has this tip helped? Is it something you've often thought about? Is it something you've only just become aware of? Also follow me on my social media platforms. We've got Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Lots of stuff going up on Facebook in particular. And also do hit that subscribe button as well. It does make a massive difference, you know. Guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.